Vado?
Go.
Okay. Hello and welcome to Circular Sparks. This is the second panel of this two-day event about Milano Circolare. I'm Zoe Romano and I'm from NEMA organization, and we are part of a European-funded Centrino project. I'm here today to introduce and moderate this panel titled Circular Sparks, and we are going to have a series of presentations and debate, and I hope that we'll also come up with questions from you. And I'm glad to share the stage with five organizations and people that are coming from Netherlands, UK, and Switzerland. So I invite them to join me. Rosemary Ruigrok, Tammy Schweichler, Alison McRae, Sarah Malone, and Cristina Olivotto. Please join me, thanks. Yes, so we are here together because yesterday we had let's say an introduction on the strategy and overall let's say plans from different cities on the strategy on how to deal with circularity and circular economy in the city. Today, what I invited them to talk about today is about more specifically some project related to the topic of, let's say, our Centrino project that is about textile fashion. Because Centrino is a project that, in which here in Milan, we are a pilot and we are going to, let's say, focus for 3 years on this topic, design and fashion. I'm going on with my presentation to explain that NEMA, that is part of the Centrino project, is a network of profit and non-profit organizations. And these organizations are joining to support small, medium enterprises and craft businesses and also startups to increase and habilitate to digital transformation, but also social innovation and circular economy. And the organizations that are animating NEMA are very different and composed of 2 maker spaces and Fab Labs, Open Dotted We Make, Base, the space we are here today, a Cube, and Cariplo Factory. And these organizations are based in this building. Centrino project is about collaboration, is about getting together municipality and private organizations, but this is not something that can happen right away. That's why I put a kind of a timeline to show that we've been working on this topic since 10 years, more or less. So as a small organization, we were dealing with trying to open up Fab Labs here in the city, and we were participating to Digital Week, to Design Week, and we did it 10 years ago. Then we started to open up maker spaces and being recognized by the municipality, and this opened up a kind of dialogue, understanding what is digital transformation, what does it mean digital fabrication in the city, and then we started to collaborate more deeply through European projects. I believe the European projects are a good way to have some resources to research and practice something that usually you cannot do with your own resources, with your own forces. And this is also useful to exchange practices with other cities and other organizations around Europe. Then, again, with the municipality of Milan, we started to work on the plan and the program called Manifattura Milano, engaging small, medium manufacturers in the city that were dealing with craft and digital manufacturing. This, how did we go into circular economy? We started with the Reflow project, that was a big project around food, and then in 2020, we started with the Centrino that is going to last until 2024. And the focus theme is design and fashion. The 9 pilots of the project are in 9 different cities with different, let's say, number of population and work on these topics. And so it's really nice to compare how we all deal with these concepts. In our case, I wanted to go a bit deeper into what is our approach on circular economy within design and fashion in the pilot that we are organizing here. It's the idea of the 15-minute city. That is a city in which is not just the focus in the center of the city, but all the neighborhood, all the small areas of Milan. Milan is divided in 9 neighborhoods. They need to have all the services and activities and facilities that can make you reach or like 20 minutes on foot and 15 minutes on bicycle, and that's the main thing. And what is the characteristic and the feature to have this type of city is to have small businesses be present and not just needing to go in the center to meet them. And so that's why one of the main topics that we faced and we started to create our vision on how to how to organize the pilot was about the inclusion and understanding what were the difficulties of small businesses to inhabit the city. Because sometimes when you're small, you don't have time to network, you're really focused on your own work, you don't have time to talk with municipality, and so we think and we thought that thinking about inclusion of this small organization in the debate on how do we see the city in the next 5-10 years in the circular economy would be a good way to do it. And because we know that many big companies are organizing and preparing for the transition to a circular economy, but small companies are harder because maybe they don't have funds, they cannot network. So we found this way of, let's say, starting a conversation with them. Of course. We started with a big event like this that we have today. We're not with the demo, but with a presentation of the project, and also creating working tables, round tables with local micro and small enterprises to co-design together an action plan. Yesterday in the presentation they say together. Circular economy means together, because you cannot create a vision that is top-down. You cannot create something too much top-down. You need to create a debate around it, and also to understand circularity. It's a process. It's not something that you switch on in a moment. So understanding circularity means we have still doubts and we don't have clear ideas what are all the norms and the laws that are coming from Europe. So we need to debate about this, because in the next 2-3 years there's going to be clear guidelines on how to proceed. But also increase the visibility and recognition of these small and medium companies, because sometimes they are not so seen, not visible in the city. So we started to do a mapping together with the support of Metabolic, the Centrino partner, that helped us create also material flow analysis, and also to visualize micro and medium enterprises. So all the small organizations that participated to our event are gonna come into a map that is divided into typology, the way, what they do, what is the main activity, but also what type of organization they are, and what are the activity that they do, if they are more into education and stuff like that. And this map is online in English, but it will be online also in Italian. One of the main things that we realized that Milan, when they have big events, not everything is visible. You just see the big things, the big subjects, the big companies. So, for example, one of the things that we wanted to do in our plan is help to show off and connect. And so we created a special map during Design Week to go and meet the small organization. We curated an experience for people coming from abroad or people coming from other cities to go and discover small enterprises, small lab in the city, and it was very useful because curating an experience is something that is really useful to open up and create collaborations. My last slide is about what you are gonna meet here. So which type of organization started to collaborate with us? So for sure there are circular and slow fashion enterprises and organizations. We were really focused on selecting and accepting in this debate companies that are producing in the neighborhood, in the sense that very close to the city or in the city. Then people that are doing, an organization that are doing upcycling and repairing, dealing with biomaterials and packaging, digital fabrication and recycling, hands-on learning and education. And because all these activities are really important to in the transition to circularity, because you need to be interdisciplinary. It's not enough to talk about garments that are sustainable or circular. How about the packaging? How about the event around it? How about the learning? Which kind of people you need in your company to go on and grow in the circular economy? So I think that this interdisciplinary approach, you can see it in our, let's say, talk sections and in the exhibition that you just visited, probably. So thank you very much. This is the introduction, and now it's time to explore the examples that are coming from different areas of the city, and I will give the floor to Rosemary Rugrog. She discovered her passion for establishing fair production and supply chain. She's been an entrepreneur for a few years, and after selling her company, she worked as a corporate social responsibility consultant for many organizations. In 2007, she founded the platform Clean and Unique to help innovators in the transition toward a sustainable fashion industry. Today, she's the advisor for circular textile for the city of Amsterdam, coordinator of the denim deal, and member of the jury at Amsterdam Made. A lot of stuff, huh? We only have 10 minutes.
That's why when your children are growing up, you have more time to do extra things.
Yeah.
And for a long, long time in the business. So thank you for having me. And to share with you the project in Amsterdam. Amsterdam also was inside of the project of the Reflow project. Here in Milano was on food, but in Amsterdam we try to understand the textile world. And for this they hired me to explore together with all the partners. Of course, we did not do it alone. We did it with the municipality, also with the Waag Society, with technical persons very famous in the Netherlands, and also for the communication with Pakhuis de Zwijger. Is really a very nice place to have debates, and also there we had a really beautiful end event, like a festival. So where we started in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, we have already a system that we say to the citizens of the Netherlands that you have to bring your textile to the textile bins. Every 5 years we do research what we find in the textile bins. And maybe you can understand, because of the fast fashion, the quality in the textile bins, they're going down nowadays because of this bad qualities. So the collectors and the sorters in the Netherlands, they are already complaining for a long, long time, because recycling of textile is not something new. It's for a hardcore business for many years. So if you open up your car, you find probably parts of the old textile industry, because some parts are already recycled. Or when you are cleaning your house, some products are already made from old textile garments, and even some isolation materials in swimming pools or gymnastic places are already from textiles, old textiles. But to understand also the flows and what we can do today, we looked also in different kind of areas what happens with the textile bins and what we can find there. And from there we made some conclusions. And one of the conclusions is that we throw away nowadays too fast our garments. A report said that we have average 170 pieces of garments in our closet, and we throw away 46 garments every year, and we buy 40 pieces. And yeah, and this is a shock, of course, and also this is we have to understand why we are doing this, why we have this behavior, because how many garments you can wear. So we asked the citizens of Amsterdam, we asked online, because it was start of the COVID, do you know that there are textile bins, how many things you think you throw away, and what do you think what you can do with the textiles. And similarity, we start to understand who is doing what in the city of Amsterdam. So we were, like you say, we mapped everyone who is working in the textile industry. So the focus was on citizens and the industry, but also for that to change also policies probably. So we wrote everything down. We let citizens to understand how the supply chain of the textile industry is working. So we developed this textile wheel, and every chapter we wrote in this booklet, and everyone who is interested, you can download it because it's online. And here I share some pictures that we did some education with universities, but also with children. We organized in the schools the textile race. So many schools in the city of Amsterdam, the children fight against the schools, because they say to everyone in the neighborhood, come on, bring your textiles. And the school with the most collected textile, they had a beautiful time in one holiday park. And the advantage, but also what was very nice, if you collect indoor, the quality of the textile is also better, because we have this textile bins, but also many cities in the Netherlands, they have the textile bins underground. It's raining a lot in the Netherlands. People, they don't throw away only textiles, but they also throw, unfortunately, food. Also, restaurants, they throw food in this because the textile bin is a little bit bigger. And even some dead pets we find in sometimes a weapon, I understood. So, I was talking about Amsterdam. So we connect everyone, connecting the dots. And so we had a lot of workshops also how to repair. Now with the sneakers, children don't know how to fix their shoes anymore, or to put a button on their garment. And yeah, you think it's so easy, but a lot of people are nowadays afraid, or too easy to don't wear it anymore when there's a little thing to fix. So repair, of course, we speak also about the R ladder, from rethink, reuse, repair, and recycle is number 8. So the best is also to avoid CO2, not think about throwing away textiles, but to use it longer, to repair, to upcycle, and all these steps before you start to think of discarding or to throw away your clothes. look if your neighbor can wear it, because we saw in some neighborhoods where a lot of people living from other countries, not original from the Netherlands, they even were not aware that we have textile bins, because by interviews they say to us, yeah, but when I don't wear it anymore, I give it to my cousin, I give it to someone else, maybe they want to have it. And now also during COVID, we could see that there are some people, they start to have some big bags. They put inside their clothes, they are not wearing it, and they give this bag through someone else. The other part, they take something out, but they put also inside clothes they are not wearing. So it's a chain of clothes chain, but then in small communities, and it's a very nice thing. And we started also to connect the network of independent tailors in Amsterdam. We have more than 100 tailors in Amsterdam. They are already for centuries over there. Most of the time they don't know each other, but we connect them together and we ask them join this new interaction with people also who are living in poverty. Because most of the people who live in poverty, they say circularity, sustainability. It's not for me, it's too expensive. And maybe they want to, but they say, okay, I'm out. But we all want to have an inclusion. We want to also to include people who also don't have so much money. So we say, if you repair your clothes with a big discount, so we had a discount of 40%, and the 40% the municipality was paying to the tailors. And we can see that in 1 year time, more than 4,000 people start to bring in clothes for repair. And in one year, the tailors, there's 35 tailors, they fixed already 12,000, 15,000 garments. So in 1 year time, you can imagine if this discount of 40%, these 100 tailors could do, how many people would rethink, hey, there's a benefit for me to go and not to throw away my jeans with my zipper. So this was really an amazing project. And then also to highlight everyone, you can do it online, we did it as well, but we have also a shopping map, a conscious shopping map, where we have now 150 retailers, shops, tailors, but also the textile bins on the map. So it is there in hotels. So also the tourists who come to Amsterdam, they can go to the fast fashion industry, so to the H&M's in the city center, but they also can now go to very nice shops who are sustainable. And then we also collaborate with to swap clothes. And yeah, we did this live events, a little bit similar what you are doing. And with the industry, we set up 10 Green Deal circular textiles. So we work with the industry on different kind of levels. With the denim industry, we come up now with 3 million jeans, where 20% post-consumer textiles is in the fabric. And we collaborate with the whole supply chain, not only in the Netherlands, but also in Turkey, in Pakistan. So it's a very nice collaboration. And we also start to rethink how we collect our textile. So I'm running out of time, so I have to, but there's a lot of things what we did, and yeah, and what I hear now, because we end up with this roadmap, and this is a big tool for universities, for the industry, where we want to go in 2030, because Amsterdam wants to become 100% circular by 2030.
Thank you, Rosemary. I think there's a lot of example to be inspired from, and that also this idea of having some support in the repairing is, I think, is really key. And we can think of questions to give to each other at the end of this series of talks. And I will move now to, we are going to stay in the Netherlands, but we are going to move to Tammy Schweikler. He's a social designer and entrepreneur based in Amsterdam. He co-founded Makers Unite in 2016, an award-winning social enterprise providing a platform for the inclusion of refugees in the Netherlands and Turkey. In 2022, as a fruit of collaboration with Patagonia and Amsterdam Economic Board, he founded United Repair Center. And so you're going to talk a bit about this project.
Thank you.
Yeah?
So we are all talking about getting out of our comfort zone, moving out of the linear economy towards the circular economy. So I'm going to invite you all to get out of your comfort zone and stand up. In this chilly morning in Milan, everybody's so cozy. And okay, so let's close our eyes, everybody, and then imagine 25 years from now. So it's probably close to 2050, and all the metrics of circularity have been achieved. And you did something with your career, with your work, with what you're doing today, that made it possible for the world to be better. What would be that something? Thank you. So you can sit again. I'm going to stay out of my comfort zone, sorry. So my name is Thomas Schweigler. I'm founder of Makers Unite and United Repair Center. And today I'm going to share a little bit about our story and what we have done in the last years. The guy with the camera is again in front of... yeah, thanks, man. We know this. We learned this yesterday. Share a little bit of what we do. And my passion, when I close my eyes and I think of the society and the world that we live after 25 years from now, is probably a world where people are included through the talents and the opportunities that we can create with circular economy. So a little bit of background about Makers Unite. We started in 2016 during the peak of the Syrian refugee crisis in the Netherlands. So this is an installation that we did during King's Day. We brought 2,000 life vests to the city to talk about the value of newcomers in society and talk about, it's just, if we work together, we can create a better society for all. And what we discovered is that the making process is a magical moment where people can create new connections. It's very simple. If you sit around a table, you can be making clothing, you can be making bread together. You start to exchange connections, you start to create trust. And trust is a fundamental pillar to help newcomers to restart in a new society. You imagine if you have been kicked out of your country, if you had to start in a new place that you don't know the language, you don't know how the whole system works. Trusting in yourself and your skills and trusting in the skills of the next person around you is fundamental to make society thrive. And we started to use this live as repurposing products as tote bags, iPads, sleeves, and we developed a 6-week talent development program that helps newcomers to understand their talents and how do they fit in the job market in the Netherlands. And then after 6 weeks, they get a bit of a career plan and a push into the career. What we discovered is that the making process is also very interesting for companies. And we started to develop collections for brands. And Ben & Jerry's is one of the brands we work with. We created a clothing collection so they could sell it to their consumers as textile merchandising, but bring in a big story. So in the label of all the clothing that we created, we said, hey, did you know this clothing was created by talented newcomers? How sweet. So I think it's really interesting because it started to cater on the possibility of spreading the positivity of inclusion through sustainable clothing, but also on a message the brands really like to leverage within. And this is a little bit where we are at the moment with Makers Unite and Repair Center. We're making big repurposing collections for big brands, and we evolved from having a small Sun atelier in Amsterdam, which now is based in Istanbul, where we're giving jobs to Syrians that unless they will get our access, they will be living under the black labor market. So in the last 6 years, we trained a little bit about 300 newcomers in our program. We made some money, but most importantly, we helped to recycle a lot of live vests from Greek shores. But then it came the new thing. During, I think we shared, Rosemary shared yesterday, the city of Amsterdam during the beginning of the COVID crisis, it started to think of a few green deals. There were 10 green deals in the city to think about how to get out of the crisis on a sustainable way. So one of them, for instance, how to create more bicycles in the city, how to help cars to become electrified. But textile was a big one. So we get involved through Makers Night on a few of them. And repairing is a big thing when you talk about circularity and textile. So if you look into the objective of repair today and all services that can be developed for brands in the future, repair is at the core of it. And we were lucky to be combined with this company called Patagonia that most of you may know. They have been doing repairs for the last 50 years. They started doing repairs before they started to make t-shirts. So we combined it together with Patagonia to say, what would be if you take your repair expertise and use it to create jobs for people with a distance to the labor market? And second, what would, if you create this blueprint, that we can make it open, we can make it shared. So we can help brands to understand what does it take to repair. We can help them to create repair programs. The repair volumes will help us to create jobs. And the jobs will be created by creating an educational program. So it's a collaboration between Makers Night, Patagonia, and the Amsterdam Economic Board. What is really interesting for brands, and we see the regulations in Europe coming around circularity, is that the impact of clothing repair is really big. So we estimate that within a year, that 30% of the associated footprint of clothing can be reduced by repairing. So this is something brands are really looking for. So what we do in our center, this will interest in the beginning of this a picture of what we do. What we did is to create an environment where we can produce high-skilled, high-quality repairs combined with technology. So we have an IT platform that helps brands to send high volume of repairs for us. And we bring them to talented people like Bakri, or people that came from Syria, came from now. We have more than 10 nationalities working in our team, but also a lot of Dutch people with distance to the labor market, a lot of youth with distance to the labor market, people over 55 years that don't have access to. So we created an educational program that helps them to not only understand how to make qualitative clothing repairs, but understanding their responsibility in society. So there's a civic education path that we do, and we help them to, after getting this education path, they get a job guarantee at the repair center. And this is something that is really mediatic, interesting. We see that the pickup of the media of what we're doing is really helpful to get brands jumping into the concept, and really helps us to get new concepts that they're allowing us to launch more and more repairs. There's a little bit of including this articles in Italian that I cannot read, was a little bit of the launch of what we did. And our goal over 5 years to get to 150 jobs for people that listen to the labor market. So what we're exploring now is using the model of experience that we had in Amsterdam to apply this to different cities, models in Europe and UK, to understand how can the repair opportunity leverage on social challenges the cities have, how can create educational programs that connect to brands and help to increase the volume of repairs. So I want to help, I want to use this as an invitation for you to think of how can you think on your function today on circularity, and how can you use your talents and your vision over 25 years to make the world a little bit more inclusive and more circular. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you very much. Very inspiring, and also numbers. It's nice to see both the things. And I think we can have a discussion later also to understand the relationship between the city of Amsterdam and what you're doing right now. So now we move from the Netherlands to UK, and Alison McRae is a network and partnership entrepreneur with nearly 30 years of economic development, communications and innovation experience. As Senior Director of Glasgow Chamber of Commerce, she is responsible for a strategic partnership portfolio working across a range of organizations which seek to innovate and anticipate new opportunity for Glasgow and its business community. A special around circular economy principle in the urban economy. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Zoe, and it's lovely to see you all here today. So yesterday I gave an overview of the sort of circular Glasgow approach, so I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to try and give you some practical examples of the ways we've actually landed on the ground and actually most recently landed on the ground so that it's current. Now there's a few things, first of all, brilliant examples we've just heard already from the Netherlands, and to build on two of the points that were made, one is about behaviour change, and one is about the point you made on major events. So the first example I'm going to give you is actually to do with food, but the principles that we use to engage with this are similar and can be transferred. So in the very first instance, during the pandemic, our very small team, so as a Chamber of Commerce, we're a voluntary organisation in the UK, not a statutory organisation. So our very small team were listening, active listening to businesses through the pandemic. And through those conversations, one of the team came up with this concept called Plate Up for Glasgow. And it was a campaign specifically in the run-up to and duration of COP26, when the delegates from all around the world were coming into our fair city, with 41 hospitality venues, specifically looking at food waste. So I'll not go into all of the detail of what was involved in that, but there were 4 specific asks: using waste food as an added value offer, as you would see in the in-stock restaurants in the Netherlands, just as one example, pickling and fermenting, using unfashionable cuts of meat, and also when your suppliers maybe have more stock that day, that you actually use that to innovate your menu. Behavioural change-wise, that was phenomenal, because it meant that people in the kitchens were buying their food differently every day. They were thinking much more differently about how they were going about using what they brought in. The front of house staff were changing the way they talked about the menu, showcasing a higher value added menu offer to the consumers, who were then hearing about all the stats that Josh mentioned yesterday about the waste of food that's going on that we're all responsible for. So as a nudge and a campaign to get people in the room thinking differently about how they're behaving, that was very powerful. And this coming autumn, we have another major event coming to the city called the UCI Cycling Championships. Now, unbeknown to probably most of you, it is going to have more athletes than the Commonwealth Games. It's a phenomenal event. Now, guess what? Cycling, people like coffee. And you guys all like coffee, and you guys all like cycling. As it so happens, on the back of this, we will have an inbound trade mission. And those of you who are interested, please speak to Leah or Zoe, and we can arrange for kind of connections on that. But the same member of the team, Rebecca, has come up with the concept to do a similar campaign, but specifically with coffee this time. And it's a 2-year program that she's developing at the moment, working with coffee houses, but to then look at how does that waste be used in natural habitat creation and business disruption in terms of clothing design, and some of the things that you've seen next door with some of your own makers is what else can you do with coffee that you never knew you could do with coffee. So I'm going to give you that as my first example. The second example is, again, mindful of something that Zoe said, which is time. SMEs, small to medium enterprises, micro businesses, certainly. Time is always, there's always a pressing issue. There's something else that's always, and circularity might be something they're really, really keen to do, but inevitably it kind of falls down the leaderboard sometimes, and that's kind of life. And it's one of the biggest lessons we've learned along the way in Circular Glasgow is that businesses need hands-on support. So in the back of the pandemic work we did in youth employability, actually, we built this program called Step Up to Net Zero. And it's a hands-on paid placement that's given a full wrap-round support by circular experts, carbon planning and stats and data to help tailor an individual action plan for that business over a 4-month period. Now, as those businesses are selected, we check the cultural relevance of that business, because it cannot be somebody sitting in a dark room in the business that's doing it and nobody's listening. And there will be a point about board engagement I'll make in a minute. But in terms of this particular program, there's 40 businesses. It's a brand new program. It's a demonstrator. Our local municipality are using us as the demonstrator. We have a number of different arts and design businesses that are engaged, and the feedback from the business community has been phenomenal. So watch this space. It's only 40 businesses. We need to scale that into 400 or 4,000 potentially. Then I mentioned yesterday briefly our Water Bear platform partnership, which we commissioned to do a film called Challenge the Gap. Now, the purpose behind what we were trying to do was get the message about the opportunity for businesses to innovate. Climate's a really contentious subject on lots of different levels for lots of different people. There's a huge amount of passion. It can become very evangelical, and we deliberately used innovation as our motivator to get businesses involved. So the purpose behind this film was to get out of the echo chamber of all our circular businesses talking to our circular businesses so that you have the power of the one to the many. Watch the movie, it's 15 minutes, it's fun. But the first example in there that is relevant for today is the Scottish Leather Group. Now, the Scottish Leather Group in Glasgow in the west of Scotland is 200 years old. So my first point in that is corporates need to be part of this game and their supply chain, because if they start engaging, that helps to shift the dial as well. So a lot of what we're hearing today is ground up. We've got lots of ground up going on as well in Glasgow, but for the purpose of today, I'm going to make some contra messages. So Scottish Leather Group are basically now nearly 100% circular. Phenomenal. And they are trading globally on the fact that they are now nearly 100% circular. So the leather, if any of you have a Mercedes or a Flying KLM, the leather from those seats is coming from the Scottish Leather Group. And then they also work with the likes of Mulberry doing their Made to Last campaign. The third example in the movie is actually a design-related solution, which is a bit left, stage left for fashion and design, but bear with me. So this is scientific design, and that's another thing that I've found. We need to think more broadly about the intervention of design. It's not just the web designers. People like to think design is, it's the crafts, it's all artisanal crafts. It's not. It's much broader than that, and there's a message in there. Quantech was a spin-out from the University of Strathclyde. They realised through their own scientific processes, if you grind down longustine shells, you get a product called chitin. And then if you do clever things, I'm not a bioscientist, but if you do clever things with that, it can become biodegradable plastic. And that, in terms of intervention to the food sector, when scaled, could be phenomenal. But the redesign of that packaging offer for the food industry, which is antibacterial as well, could be game-changing for the food and packaging and design sector. So then if I kind of take it up a bit into the strategy place, yesterday we said strategy is great, super, super. It's actually getting stuff in the ground that's really important. We've not started this yet, this one that I'm going to tell you about, very briefly. And actually I was talking to Rosemary about this just earlier. On the back of the run-up to COP, the city, as part of its 2030 carbon neutral targets and 2045 circular target, has built a green investment portfolio, because we need shed loads of money coming into Glasgow to help us transition at a macro level, right? So one of the projects we've got on the table is this Future Fashion Park. Now, in the Future Fashion Park, it's going to intend to be a new advanced manufacturing destination. It's in partnership with the UK Fashion and Textiles Organisation Association, funded by the UK government, and they're going to do that in partnership with our local municipality, and then they come to the chamber to say, can you come into the room and help us make this happen, with a business I'm about to tell you about, ACS Clothing. Now, in terms of what this will aim to do, it's going to be a substantive dial shifter. They're aiming to get basically onshoring of 5% of the UK's 26 billion fashion sector through this site. It will be about a £30 million investment proposal. It will only be done by partnership, to be clear, but it will be all fundamentally about renewable energies, advanced technologies, and all the stuff that you would expect in these kind of remanufacturing and advanced manufacturing destinations. But then the skills point is really important, because it's building on the Glasgow School of Art skills, it's building on our universities and the round skills in terms of the careers of the future. It's going to be about technology, it's going to be about actual artisanal skills, stitching skills as well. So moving on to two specific case studies in Glasgow, again, to give you a feel for what's happening in the sector. ACS Clothing, let's have a show of hands. How many people, they are a member of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, just to give Josh another plug, but how many of you have heard of ACS Clothing in the room? Wow, none of you, apart from You and Josh. Okay, so you have though, yeah. So ACS Clothing have been around for 25 years, but they now have a circular economy hub in Glasgow. It's 200,000 square feet, and they are very simply enabling fashion brands and retailers to join the circular economy, okay? So they are basically servicing an entire reverse logistics process for fashion brands, all happening in Glasgow. It's a phenomenal company. Now, there's probably a whole hour you could talk about just what ACS Clothing are doing, but their entire process is digitised, spot cleaning, all their water, the whole thing is a circular proposition. And, you know, that they're really fundamentally all about the resale revolution. Now, from my understanding, the resale revolution is worth about $77 billion by 2025, a huge market proposition. And they have just literally launched their partnership with eBay in terms of getting in and shifting the dial in the market and how you, me, all be buying. But the point I would make back to boards and companies owning what's actually happening in this space is that Andy and his team say that their board are super sponsors of the circular economy and the sustainability agenda. And in terms of culture embedding, that's really, really, really important. And they've just got B Corp status, and they got 150, which is a phenomenal score. And then my last example is this, just because it's so beautiful. So beautiful. So this is a designer in Glasgow. His business is all these beautiful made, handmade, hand-designed acacia wood bags. They won the first Scottish Edge investment for circular economy through Zero Waste Scotland to help them in a sustainable way scale the way they were producing. So from that point of view, the reason I wanted to share that with you today is they worked with our National Advanced Manufacturing Institute, which is one of our innovation districts down in the west near the airport, and they came up with a 3D designed model for these bag prototypes, which they then wrap, wait for it, with the leather from the Scottish Leather Group, or vegan materials, or and other materials for that particular type of bag. But that means that that new advanced technology intervention is allowing them to actually grow that business in a purposeful way. But it's such a beautiful item that I thought that would be a nice one to share with the tech enabling solution that they have done. And I will stop at that, but we have many things that we'd love to share, but that will have to do for today.
Thank you, Alison. Really interesting. Also, going deep and see some concrete example is really useful to have a clearer picture of what's going on. So let's stay in UK and go to Sarah Malone, Senior Advisor and Textile Lead at the London. She manages the London program of research across various topics linked to the circular economy. Prior to London, Sarah has held various economic research and policy roles in both the private and public sector. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you again for the opportunity to speak about the work that we're doing in London. So today I'm going to talk specifically about the work that we do with businesses and the fashion businesses that we work with. So for those that weren't here today, I will touch on who we are at London and how we were set up. And then I'm going to talk a bit about why the circular economy is important and the role we see for SMEs in the transition to a circular economy in London, and then how we actually support businesses with a case study on fashion. So who are we? Well, London is a partnership of the Mayor of London and London's boroughs, and we work together to improve waste and resource management in the city and to accelerate the transition to a circular economy. We're a statutory body, so we were actually set up by central government, and in particular the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. And we support the Mayor and the 33 independent boroughs that are there on the screen to deliver on the London Environment Strategy to essentially reduce waste and increase recycling. And it's London's mission to revolutionise our relationship with stuff by working with businesses to embrace circularity, working with London's boroughs by providing practical advice and guidance at both a local and a city level, and then educating Londoners through our behaviour change campaigns to minimise waste, increase recycling, and generally normalise circular behaviours But for the purposes of today, I will just focus on the work we do with businesses. Again, for those that weren't here yesterday, we have 5 focus areas as an organisation: food, fashion, plastics, the built environment and electricals. And they've been chosen as a priority for London because of their high environmental impact, but also their opportunity for reuse. And essentially, because we feel that as sectors, they're both a cause of the problem, but a source of the solution. And today, I'll give an example of fashion businesses we work with. So that's a bit about who we are. So why is the circular economy so important, and what's the role of businesses in our transition? Well, tackling waste and material use is key to tackling climate change and a transition to a more sustainable future. And that's because 45% of total global greenhouse gas emissions come from all the food, material and products that we make, use and consume every day. And in London, we believe that the transition must be led by small and medium-sized businesses, as they actually represent a huge 99% of businesses in London, and they're both responsible for the issue, generating more than half of business waste in London, but they're also the starting point for innovation and tailored local solutions. And that's why at London we have a business transformation team that empowers London's small businesses to transform the way that they do business by translating circular economy principles into business opportunities. And we do this by working with both what we call traditional linear businesses that are new to the circular economy, to help them to understand and adopt circular practices within their organization, and also circular economy startups to strengthen and scale their pre-existing circular business models. So just a bit of context on London's fashion sector. So London, as is well known, has a strong heritage in fashion made up of lots of design-led small businesses, and this has led to huge innovation in terms of materials and how we've experimented with end-of-life and new customer models and second-hand options. And coupled with this, we also have a strong university base in sciences and technologies, and this has helped to support this innovation through digital app development and exploring new materials. So that's the context for London. But I think what's important when it comes to circular solutions are that we believe that they're quite specific to the local context. So solutions, for example, in the city of Milan may look slightly different to those in London, where we have sort of different infrastructure, different culture and consumer behavior. So that's a bit about the fashion sector. So our business transformation program exists to demonstrate the business case for circular business models and support SMEs in London. And why SMEs need our help? Well, there's no one-size-fits-all solution, so becoming regenerative, waste-free business is not just one solution and requires rethinking of centuries of business practice. So it can feel risky to embark on this journey or invest in innovative circular solutions, and that's why we offer tools, guidance, and connections needed for pioneers to successfully scale their solutions. Secondly, global solutions don't always apply locally. As I mentioned in the previous slide, every city is unique in its culture, geography, and infrastructure, and this affects the attractiveness of new business models such as rental or reuse, and the practicality or cost of key operations such as remanufacturing, composting, or redistribution. And that's why at London we translate how to adapt emerging solutions locally. And thirdly, small businesses won't change on their own in isolation. As it was alluded to before, they lack the time, resources, and leverage needed to identify and scale waste reduction solutions. So they want inspiration from other similar businesses that are paving the way. And again, that's why we offer practical recommendations, harnessing collective experiences and creating a hub for businesses trying regenerative practices that they can learn from each other, as well as the experience that we have in-house. And how we do that is we provide advice. So we've got a whole team of in-house expert business advisors who offer this dedicated guidance to help businesses grow sustainably and responsibly while taking advantage of what the circular economy has to offer. So our advice helps businesses redesign their business models, it validates the commercial and environmental benefits, and we also support with things like carbon impact calculations. We have grants, so we structure and administer grant programs to achieve outcomes across various metrics, such as economic resilience, job creation, and reduction in waste and emissions. And we deliver these grant programs both at a borough-specific level, but also London-wide. We also provide connections, so we actually organise carefully curated matchmaking events where we essentially bring together circular innovators with investors, buyers and boroughs. And we have an event that focuses on the specific sector or a theme. So we've done a Meet the Buyer event for the construction sector where we brought together local government procurement teams with circular construction businesses as well as sort of the large players in the industry. And this is complemented by our recently launched Circular Economy Matchmaker, which is an online platform that joins the dots between large businesses, small businesses, local authority, investors, and others. So that's a bit about the advice that we give. So an example of a company that we've worked with is Birdsong, who are a sustainable fashion studio based in East London. And they recently received support from ReLondon's business team and from the Mayor of London's Green New Deal Fund. And essentially they decided to launch a new repair service to extend the lifetime of their garments. And they've actually been able to, through this trial, refine the types of repair on offer, and again, through this trial, confirm that the offer is actually attractive to their customers and to their makers. And they've also formed strategic partnerships with logistic providers such as Repack, Schwab, and Sojo. And the highlights from this trial include the fact that the majority of their customers were actually interested in this service, and they were able to divert around 4 tons of clothing from landfill during this 6-month trial, and provided 2 days of additional work opportunities for makers. And actually, Birdsong now plans to offer lifetime repairs on their items and scale this offer. So that's a bit about example of one company we've worked with, but as a whole, our business support program that we launched in 2017 has supported over 360 businesses. So that's both circular innovators as well as your everyday businesses that are embracing the opportunities that the circular economy can provide. We've delivered over 6,000 hours of support. We have supported the creation and safeguarding of over 600 jobs as a result of the growth in the businesses that we've actually supported through this program. And then this is one example of where 6 innovators alone have helped to save 57,000 tons of CO2 emissions. And this was 6 food innovators who were finding solutions to tackle food waste, weather avoidance, or redistribution of waste. And we're hoping to be able to collect more of these sorts of metrics as we continue our program. What I will say, actually, which I missed off, was that 81% of startups that we've supported are still active 3 years on, against a backdrop of 40 to 50% fail rate for London, UK companies. So we have delivered huge impact through our program. So that was a really quick overview of the business support that we provide at ReLondon. But I think there were 3 takeaways from what I've just said, which is that for London, we see the transition to a circular economy as being led by SMEs. As I mentioned before, we feel that they're responsible for the issue, but more importantly, starting point for innovation and tailored local solutions. But the solutions for London may not always translate to solutions for other cities, so it will very much depend on the makeup of the sector and local infrastructure. And for ReLondon and our business team, the next steps for us, whilst we we feel that we've delivered impact through our program, we actually want to scale up our support and impact by exploring further relationships with corporates, so really joining the SMEs with the larger companies so that we can take things a lot further. So that was everything from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Interesting to see how the focus is SMEs and small enterprises. It's a good, I mean, we should talk about it because it's really similar also to Milan and our program. So we move now from UK to Switzerland.
Hello.
Yes, with Cristina Olivotto from Geneva. She's a physicist by training, started to work in the field of science and developed extensive experience in working in international context and with European organizations, including the European Space Agency. Wow. In 2017, she co-founded the first Fab Lab in Geneva, on Le Fait, where she is currently employed as coordinator. And in 2019, she co-founded the MACO, a collaborative space dedicated to circular economy, where On Le Fait is based also. And she's involved in On Le Fait activities related to schools and professional reintegration, and she's collaborating with us on Centrino projects. Please,
Thanks,
Cristina.
Zoe. Good morning, everybody. So in the next 10 minutes, I will share with you our experience in designing, in developing, in sustaining a project dedicated to circular economy that is called LAMACO. And before also taking the time to tell you which has been the impact, which are the challenges, I think it's important to understand the context because as it has been said by the other speakers, when we talk about circular economy, there are challenges and there are issues that are very, very specific to the local economical tissue and also to the mentality and the mindset of people. So we are based in an industrial zone, which is called the Zone Industrielle de Charmy, ZIC, that it's the last industrial site in Geneva, and it's still active, so there are still small businesses, still craftsmen who are producing, who are selling, and it is a huge area owned by the municipality of Geneva in 1998, after the crisis or the transformation that affected most of the European cities and the industrialization and the changes in the economy. And in this area, there was a lot of discussion about it since many years. As in many cities, one of the big problems is the cost of square meters. To give you an idea, in Geneva, the average cost of a square meter is 16,000 euros. So you can understand that for a small business, it's a struggle to stay in the city. And there was therefore all a discussion led by different parties to see how these craftsmen, how this last part of the productive city can stay. And it was not an easy path. There was a lot of conflicts between the artisans, between the citizens, between the cities. Until 2016, when the municipality decided to start a collaborative process where all the stakeholders were involved, and that led to the idea, to the birth of this project, which is called LAMACO, La Manufacture Collaborative. And the idea was to give to small associations, to the civil society, a space around 1,200 square meters in this bigger area of the ZIC to test and to develop new ways of producing and consuming. to promote circular economy and sustainable development, to share digital spaces, manual spaces, and to be inclusive. So to be really a space where everybody feels welcomed, and it is not addressed to a specific target group, but has the ambition to be really a service for everybody. There are many people involved in this project, mainly the municipality, because they are the owner of the building, the associations. There are the ones who accepted the challenge and said, okay, we thank you very much for having this building, and we will make our best to make it active and impactful. And other stakeholders that range from the association that is responsible for the building, to the neighbors, to the other artisans. And our mission basically is to be a broker, to be a link, a liaison between the real productive city, which are our neighbors, and the rest of the society, of the neighbors. To be more concrete, these are the small organizations that are installed in the building, and I think it's important to mention all of them because it shows indeed the value of this place that is to be diverse. So there's our organization, it is On Le Fait, that is Makerspace, a web lab, so dedicated to rapid prototyping, to machines, to digital innovation. There's Materium, which is a ressourcerie, so they work a lot with Working Site to collect materials, from small to big, and to resell it. Either B2B but also to individuals. La Manivelle is a library of objects where you can rent, you can locate for one day, for 1 week, for a month, a tool that could be from a drill to a tent for your weekend. Le Grand Atelier is a space for basically do-it-yourself, bricolage. So you find a hammer, you find a machine to cut, a sewing machine, a sewing machine for wood. And we have Glitter, which is an association to recycle plastic. CP is another small association that is specialized to swap clothes, so it's not a second-hand shop, but they organize a system to exchange clothes. Le Geste, we have our colleagues here today, that is a tailoring studio, and then we have also artists. So this shows the diversity of the business, and it's really interesting because you see people coming because they need to just rent a tool, but then they find that there is a space next to it where they can also learn how to use a laser cutter to repair an object, or they can buy things for their home. And that's really interesting, and it's the best way to attract an inclusive public, to be inclusive ourselves. And in our case, it's not only a question of culture or I don't know, background, but I think that it's the advantage of our group of people is that we have, for example, different political views. There are the ones who are more coming from the activism. There are more that were in more even right-wing parties. There are people who have a high education. There are others who have no education at all, and but they can do manual work. So this variety, which is, as I will say, is not always easy to put together, but it has the great advantage to try to answer the different needs and to avoid to be something just for a small group, for an elite that is already convinced about the usefulness of a circular economy. And to do that, we do a lot of work at the very beginning to put in place a system of governance based on holacracy, where there is not a leader, a boss, I don't know how to say it, but where everybody has a specific role and task. And the 4 pillars that emerged from this work that took months is that Lamaco must be a place to share in a very concrete sense, to share tools, but also to share knowledge, so to be based on open sourcing about open hardware and so on, to be responsible from us as individual, so we commit to something and we commit and we want to deliver it, but also for our society. So responsibility in terms of personal relationships, but also towards our society, to be sustainable for the mission of our organizations and how we show it, and also to be creative, again, at any level, to how you deliver a product to new business models. And the 3 big challenges was to building trust between us. Trust is a concept that emerged many times since yesterday, to build trust between us and with the citizens. To establish a governance which is solid, and it's usually not very exciting because in the very first phase of a project you have a lot of enthusiasm, you think that everything will go well, and you tend to underestimate this part, but on the contrary I think it's an investment that pays a lot afterwards, and to assign clear roles. So we learned about responsibility. We learned about being intelligent, but in a practical way. So when there's a problem, there's an issue, which is the most efficient way to get there, and that everyone, everywhere is not a good way to manage a project. So our idea is more that everyone is a small domain of authority, and it keeps to it. What we are learning now is to deal with the conflicts and heterogeneous organizations, because I was saying at the beginning, it seems everything, we are going all in the same direction, but every organization is evolving differently, and still we want to keep things together, but we need to work on it. And also another aspects that should not be underestimated, because it's a lot of time and money. And accountability and lobbying is something we want to do together. If I have 1 minute more, I wanted to say what we want to learn for the future, and to make the project sustainable in a financial way, because now we have the space that is free for 5 years, 2 years more, but we need to find ways to generate enough money to occupy it. And what is a concept that is really important for me, how to test hybrid models. I love hybrid models. I really like issues which are at the edge of a domain, So at the MACO, we sell services, but also we get fundings, we do research, but we also repair things. And I was convinced, and I'm still convinced, that it's the good way for approaching a circular economy, because it's a new issue and because it's so complex that it needs multidisciplinarity. But at the same time, I realized that it's confusing for a lot of people. So to identify what we do, what's our role for Geneva. And so is really to test which are the limits and which are the advantages to have an hybrid model. And of course to evolve and grow in a collaborative way, or more based on consent, because there are people who see us as the bobo that are just having fun, testing things that will never work. There are other people who think they are like populists because we try to things to keep the production locally and not to promote exchange also of goods. And there are people who see us as too politically involved, so we need to find really this balance between all these visions, because in the end I think it's a theme that goes beyond all these divisions. Circular economy.
Thank you, Cristina. Wow. You touched a very key topic, like governance, but also like the building, the rent, the cost of maintenance of the places where we are. So I think we are like a bit late with our schedule, but I think we can have take 10 minutes to have some question, maybe among us also, because I think it's the first time we meet all together, so it would be good to also have questions. And also if someone has question from the public, just let me know and we can come here with a microphone. Just to break the ice, I don't know, I have a question. Maybe you can see who can
take advantage
answer. I would just touch this thing of the cost of rent and buildings in the cities. That is a reality, the increased cost also on the maintaining it, and especially after COVID, many small businesses moved outside of the city. It happened in Milan, and also because for people that are making things and more crafty activity and manufacturing small lots of like products, they are not really scalable. So in the sense that, or they find a deal with good rent, like you managed with the municipality to have a space that's for 5 years has cheaper or no rent at all. Or on the other, you find a side business that can make more scalable, maybe more connected with digital economy, or find a way not to be just focus on making something physically. So I was wondering if you encountered also this issue in your like situation and how you are dealing with it. Hello, who wants to? You?
It's wonderful to bring us together in all the cities, and listening to all of us. We struggle, all cities struggle with the same things. It doesn't matter anymore where you are in the world. I hear the same stories in Dhaka, in Ethiopia, but also here in Europe. And I love the name Re-London, so I think that we have everywhere in the world the cities Re-London, Re-Milano, Re-Amsterdam, and to collaborate more and more together, because we learn so much. I hear the similar things. We are setting up now also in an old building like Basel, you in Geneva, beautiful buildings. We set up also with low rental spaces for 10 startups in the textile industry, but to collab also, and this is a following up of the Reflow project, to collab with everyone we met in the project, because together, and you mentioned already, you are strong and you can learn so much. So I think that once or twice per year we have to come all these cities together and to explore where you struggle, and then to come up with workshops or something. and everyone who wants to enjoy as citizens, governance, industry, and to face the challenge and to work on it together. So I think yeah, this is a wonderful start, probably.
I think I can share my humble experience in Amsterdam. I think my conclusion from the talk today is that I'm moving to Geneva because I have free rent. It is really interesting because Centrin is also focused on providing old infrastructure and making sure that the making process can continue in cities. Well, it is my biggest problem. We are outgrowing our location in the center of Amsterdam, so I have to move out of the center. But if you move out of the center, our whole education function goes away. So we cannot be in a warehouse in the middle of nowhere. And every city that we're trying to develop, we have a similar issue. I believe that there's a massive responsibility of cities to facilitate the availability of space. And it's very difficult because we are, in our case, you see 99% of SMEs correspond to other businesses in London. Those are fast-moving companies, and we react much quicker than a large company would react, or much quicker than what the government would react. So it is necessary for cities to create speed on providing availability of space. It's not that they have to fund the space, but they really should make it possible for startup innovation, making spaces, social inclusion spaces, and circularity to flourish inside cities. And I think it was mentioned yesterday, but Josh, I believe, on the importance on bringing innovation to a combined physical space. And we see what's happening here today in Milan, how powerful it is to combine, and placemaking is really fundamental for the success of a city. So it is a big challenge that will be only becoming more difficult if you look at the effects of inflation, the effects of the forecast in the coming years. It's not that getting housing or spaces to work is going to get easier. So I think it would be really great if the cities would speed up and facilitate the dialogue on facilitating spaces for innovation.
You have a question?
Yeah. Now I have a question for Tammy, because as I understand correctly, so the people repairing are refugees or are recent immigrants, so I guess you get funding also to train them. You don't?
So we're doing everything from a business perspective, so it's a big corp, and instead of becoming rich, we put the money back on the education programs. Of course, there are constructions on taxes that every business just have access to, but we're framing as a business first and making sure that our current model makes sure that we can fund educational programs. If there are funds, if they can come, but we're not dependent on funds, especially to not become hostage of the situation, and then a new administration or a new program ends, and then we have to end the program.
Okay, so thanks, because it was exactly.
But I'm really happy to move to Geneva if you offer me free rent.
Sure. Good. Thanks.
Yeah. I have a question for Sarah, because you talk about, I really liked the reflection, really there is no answer that fits all, in the sense that I remember when we first started to build a makerspace here in Milan, it was so complex to explain the concept, like 7 years ago. And when we wanted to have the insurance for the people coming there, it was like a nightmare. And so we had to say, look, it's like a gym. You have the machines, like a gym, and big machines, and when the people use it, maybe use the laser cut, they need to be having an insurance that covers them. And so with the gym example, they realized that it was something that could be covered somehow. And so I was wondering, but it's really you need to have consultants that are really into understanding what you need to do and understanding, so you need to craft a solution or an advice. So I was wondering, you have magic people there that can really tune in with the need of small enterprises, because sometimes if they do something innovative, they need also to push in other direction. It's not just a matter of business model.
Yeah, so we do have a whole team dedicated to providing advice, and they've worked with the 360 plus businesses that we've supported. So I think we've got the expertise in-house, but I think what's really helped is building up case studies of companies who have incorporated circular economy solutions into their business and how it's worked in practice. So whilst I know we are talking about the fact that there's bespoke solutions, but you know, there's a bit of an example from each company that you can bring to a session, and I think that really helps, especially for the businesses that aren't circular and trying new circular solutions, well, as well as actually the circular SMEs that maybe have an idea, but they don't know how to make it profitable or how to scale it up, and we can use those case studies that we've been building up since we implemented the program back in 2017. So I think that our advice alongside the advice of other businesses, and we, I don't know if it's annual, but we often bring together our SMEs in sort of networking events, and we found those to be really, well, the SMEs have told us they've been really useful to build those connections and to sort of find out who they could be working with, the suppliers they could be working with, and any sort of tips or challenges. And I was thinking about the question that you'd asked previously, maybe it was before the session, about what challenges we've had with setting some of these things up. And I think for the business support program at London, at the beginning, it was those connections that we, that sort of trying to make sure that we knew of the SMEs that are working in London, but also who we could connect them with. So we've now got a huge set of connections that's really our selling point, I guess. And so that was probably a challenge to setting up the program right at the beginning.
Thanks. You have something to add? Yes.
So this is kind of a build, and it's also a question to you, Sarah, if that's okay. So we in Glasgow have nearly 250 members in a Circular Glasgow network now. So just to mirror the point that Sarah's making, that exchange of information is absolutely second to none. And as I said yesterday, we were shameless. We brought all the case studies in from Amsterdam initially, and then built a partnership initially with London just before the pandemic, and we're now building that all up. But that business-to-business exchange is just invaluable, and it doesn't have to be the same sector, because you can still be having the same problem if you're in a different sector, so don't be too precious about it only being in one sector. But I'm interested in asking you a question, actually, which is how you've done your matchmaking, but specifically with investors. So how did you decide which investors to try and bring into the room, and actually what did you have to do to incentivize them to come into the room? And how much did they really know about the circular economy in the first instance? So how much did you have to do to advise them and brief them on that?
Yeah, I think it's definitely been an education piece with investors. So I think part of the work that we do as through the business support program is to demonstrate the business case. So really demonstrating that circular economy solutions aren't just good for the environment, but they're also good for business. So we, through our case studies and examples, we collect these metrics so we can show how many jobs have been created, what the the profit from the pilot, and other economic metrics, so that you can then go to investors and show what the returns on investment, that's the word I was trying to find, so that you, to sort of shift that mindset from it being just environmental solutions. And we've been doing that behind the scenes through our research as well. So we launched a jobs and skills report just in the summer last year that demonstrated how many circular jobs are already in London and the value that they add to the economy. Again, just to sort of move us away from thinking that if you want to become circular, that you're not for profit or a social enterprise. It can also be a profit-making solution. So I think we talked about this yesterday about changing how you think about circular economy towards the economic benefit, the innovation, so that sort of people buy into it from sectors that, like investors or businesses. So I think that's sort of the
Okay,
thing.
thank you. I think the time is running fast, so we need to wrap up, but we can keep the conversation informally down the stage. So I thank you, Rosemary Rugrock, Tammy Schweichler, Alison McRae, and Sarah Malone, and Cristina Olivotto to sharing the things that you've been doing during these years in your own cities. And please, a round of applause to thank them. And to those who speak Italian, the talks are going on this afternoon and the workshop in the other room. So thank you very much for staying with us in the room and online. Bye-bye.